Great fighters don't just prove their greatness because of their ability to be dominant. They can and often do make the gulf that exists between them and their competition quite pronounced. But even the greatest fighters, if they hang around for long enough, eventually find themselves with their back to the wall. And in the UFC 277 main event, the former pound-for-pound queen Amanda Nunes officially recaptured her spot as the #1 in the sport with a performance that proved her ability to overcome an opponent in Julianna Pena, who many believe to be her kryptonite. You all know that saying about fighters who are used to being the hammer and how some of them fall apart when they're the nail for the first time in a few fights. Well, that was Amanda Nunes last time around. Pena managed to take the fight to her in the most direct fashion we've seen in quite some time. It wasn't like the Germaine de Randamie title defense where Nunes' wrestling provided a straightforward, albeit not ideal, route to victory. No, Pena knew she had her in the grappling department, the cardio department. And in that first fight, her total lack of fear allowed her to drag the striking exchanges towards becoming the type of dogfight that she was best suited to, of the pair of them. Now, I think it would be wrong of me not to mention the fact that Amanda had been coming off a bout of COVID-19, and if I had to really guess, it does seem as though her cardio was in some way affected by that. But she was also reckless in there, sloppy, almost befuddled by the total lack of respect she was getting off the soon-to-be crowned champion, Pena. However, this recent rematch did not play out like that, not at all, and Nunes' prowess as an undeniable great of the sport allowed her to take an honest approach with this rematch, adjusting where needed while retaining a level of faith in her abilities, being the polished veteran that she is. And boy, did she show up in a big way at UFC 277. The Lioness did exactly what she needed to do to dispel the idea that Pena was on her level. I don't think that her original win was a fluke, but whether Nunes didn't quite take Julianna's path to victory as seriously as she needed to in her preparation, or she was hindered by external factors, the second bout played out a lot closer to our initial expectations. Amanda was pretty much a battering ram in there, but her cardio was clearly being conserved in a more suitable fashion. And the reason I don't think it was a fluke the first time around for Pena is that you could just see the pitfalls last weekend where things could have turned in her favor. It wasn't even about the submission attempts, it was more about those moments where the champion fired back at Nunes and really put her under pressure. In those moments, Amanda remained composed. Even when she was landing hard and scoring knockdowns, there was a certain intelligence to her output that, if it wasn't there, would have probably allowed Pena to take this fight over, or at least make it more competitive. But Nunes remained wily, she was aware, and over 5 rounds, she got the job done in dominant fashion. And for me, the whole idea of you only being as good as your last fight certainly holds some weight here. Following her original defeat to Pena, a lot of the shine that Nunes had, that invincibility factor, it was weakened to some extent. And as if it was fate, Valentina Shevchenko, who's probably her greatest rival, also had some dicey moments in her own most recent title defense, getting a surprisingly tough fight from Talia Santos that had a similar effect on her status. But now Shevchenko and Nunes are both undisputed champions once again. And with that whole idea of only being as good as your last fight in mind, I firmly believe that the time has come to set them up for their long-awaited third fight. Valentina is 7 title defenses deep at 125 pounds, and eventually she was always going to run into someone who surprised her and surprised all of us. Nunes was in a similar situation, and looking at the rankings, I just think that these two divisions would actually benefit if they were given a bit of time to allow new contenders to grow, instead of lining them up one by one for a fight that most of them aren't ready for. And as much as I love an active champion, when you reach a point in time where dominance is almost expected, sometimes going off script is the right move. A big reason that I'm calling for Nunes Shevchenko 3 is because of how close we were to losing it, because of Julianna Pena and almost due to Talia Santos, and where things could have been left. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to leave us a like before hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're continuing to pick up steam here at MMA Dive, and your best way to stay right on top of our uploads is to get on board now. Anyway, I don't think there's any doubt over these two fighters being considered the very best in the game today. Hell, I even think there's an argument to be made that they are the two greatest of all time. But perhaps most importantly of all is the fact that both of these women have pretty strong arguments for having won the last fight they shared. And if memory serves, Shevchenko was coming on very strong in the final round of their first fight. Either way, from a matchmaking perspective, neither of them have fully singled themselves out as truly greater than the other one. And the sport of MMA is all about fights like this. The division needs it, both fighters have a point to prove, the fans would love it, and all in all, I don't think it would be a stretch at all to call it the greatest fight in women's MMA history. The last time they fought at 135 pounds, only Amanda was actually champion. In the time since, Valentina has gone 9-0 with 5 finishes and 7 7 title defenses under her belt. Nunes has gone 7-1 across 2 different weight classes, of course avenging the only defeat she suffered in that time in very strong fashion. I just think we need this fight. I think the sport deserves it. And after seeing how the last few months and maybe the last year has played out for both parties, I think Dana and his team realize now that putting this fight on the back burner might not be as much of a low-risk move as previously thought. For now though, Amanda Nunes reclaims her mantle as the bantamweight queen. An order seems like it has been restored at 135 pounds, as well as the fact that the official rankings have once again positioned her as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. As far as Pena is concerned, she did an excellent job with what she had, but in the end was outgunned by her opponent. All in all though, it's clear that the bantamweight division has another great talent in their top 5. I really do enjoy Pena's hard-nosed style of fighting, and if she can continue to round out her game, I have no doubt that she'll bounce back. However, UFC 277 was Amanda Nunes' night, and I await her next move with some pretty serious interest. But what did you make of Amanda Nunes' dominant return to form in last weekend's main event? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate our chances of seeing Nunes fighting Shevchenko before the year is out? Do let us know your opinions in the comment section below, and if you're enjoying the content, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.